Hello, I'm Sharif Kasimba, Chair Safeguard International. I just want to draw attention to you that being a general health and safety practitioner, I've worked in different industries for the past years. And here we go. We want to start with the risk management in construction. You know, construction is a sector that involves very many activities carried out at the same time. So when we talk about the risk management, we are particularly highlighting areas of interest of every employee to ensure that they implement it within their organizations. Risk management, these are two words commonly used by the HSE practitioners, and the risk referring to the likelihood and consequences of a diverse event or hazard that may negatively impact to the environment, health, and safety. Of course, it includes the harm to the people, property, and environment. Name it. When it comes to management in the context of the risk management, we are referring it to the coordinated effort and processes that are used to identify, assess, monitor, and mitigate the risks. Of course, this one includes the policies, the strategies as an organization have. All these things that are in place are under the code of management, because as management, you must tell us what you need to have as per the law, what you are supposed to have as the minimum, as the reasonably practicable measures that you are supposed to have. So for that case, we can now come back to the point of the risk management in construction. Just as I said, construction, we have different levels. I will not be able to highlight them, but for a matter, we have, we start with the client, the owner of the structure. We can also have the consultants, those are civil engineering companies. Of course, I've skipped the designers, the architecture team, and what. So we have the contractors. This is where I'm putting more effort, because contractors are the one managing the construction processes. They are dealing with the subcontractors who are doing particular work at a specific time. So the overall is the contractor. For my sake, I can mention a company like Alec doing construction. But there are other companies that are coming in, we call them subcontractors, that are coming in to do specific activities, talk about the plumbing work, talk about lighting, talk about facade work, and all other activities. So when we talk about the risk management, we mean it involves very many things. The first one is identification, assessing, mitigating the risks to ensure that the safety is taken as the first priority during the course of the work. And there are components that we consider. The first one is the risk identification, where we look at the site condition. This involves the assessment, we assess the workplace, and we identify the hazards and the possible risks that we may encounter during the course of the work. Then we also look at the design and planning risks. We are provided with various machines, name them. We may have tower cranes, We may have mobile elevating working platform. We may have very many equipments that we are using, scissors, and depending on which activity you are performing. Now, if there is a malfunction during the course of the work, you can see, you can evaluate, you can see how risky it is, to the extent that when it occurs or any failure occurs or any accident or incident occurs, you'll be able to find that very many people will lose their lives, and that is not our point of view. As HSE practitioner, we take the safety as the first priority during the course of the work. We also look at the health and safety hazards under the identification, because it is a very big area. It is the first part that we concentrate on. When we look at health and safety hazards, we are looking at the risks that are associated with very many activities. Talk about working at height, confined space, talk about very many activities, very many things that are always going on. So we look at the activities in the perspective of the health and safety. We look at the financial status, because an organization is always spending a lot of money on things that are developmental, but when an accident occurs, then we need also to look at it also, how negative it may affect the organization. So in the due course, we need to look at also the financial risks, and lastly is the regulatory and compliance risks. We see how best we are incorporating the local, international, and of course the safety regulations. The first part, only the risk identification, it enables you to come up with things, various things that you need to address at the next step, because next step, you'll be able to carry out the risk assessment. In the risk assessment, after identifying these risks, you need to do the assessment. In the assessment, you'll be able to look at the likelihood and the impacts they have to when it occurs. Take an example. You are operating a mobile elevating working platform. It is raised maybe to 5 meters above. So when it experiences the mechanical failure, those workers who are upside are likely to fall down. And once they fall down, what do you expect them to be? Some of them may die. And the countries have penalties for these things. So from there, we needed to look at the perspective of looking at the likelihood and the impacts of such risks after the identification. Then from there, we needed to prioritize them. We see this one is higher risk, this one is lower risk. This helps you when you are coming up with the strategies, when you are doing work, when you are dividing your activities. You see which one requires too much attention, which one requires less, which one requires adequate supervision, which one requires this, and at the end of it all, you can be able to come up with a clear plan. So risk assessment, it is coming after the risky identification. From there, there is the risk mitigation. When you look at the risk mitigation, this is where you see safety coming in. We are implementing the safety protocols, talk about the safety measures, talk about the training programs, talk about the personal protective equipment with an aim of reducing or minimizing the environmental health and safety risks to the workers, of course. Then from there, we need also to look at the contractual safeguards. Insurance may give you the guidelines that you need to follow in case of any activity. They need to be defined. The contracts need to define which one do they want, what are the measures that they need to implement. The insurance can give you their guidelines that you need to follow. and of course with an aim of managing the expense and to minimize various outlook in various areas. Then there is also the view of talking about the quality control. This one is done mostly when it comes to the testing, doing certain activity, regular inspection, to ensure that we comply with the minimum standards during the course of inspection of certain things. As an HSE practitioner, we have guidelines that we follow. Now, we need to find out whether the organization is meeting the quality, the standards that they need to follow. For a case of an activity, they are performing various activities that require certifications, So these things are supposed, quality-wise, to meet the minimum required qualities. So at the end of it all, we could look at another step that requires the monitoring and review. This is a continuous process. It is applicable in every activity. We need to do monitoring and review. Why do we do these two things? We do the monitoring to ensure that what we initiated, as you know very well that in the Health and Safety Guideline 65 talks about the Plan, Do, Check Act. So if we are planning our thing like we want to come up with a risk management in our construction site, we can as well come up with the plan. That is why I talked about the identification. Then too, we carry out the risk assessment. Then after, we need to check. Checking, this is where we are coming up with a monitoring and review. There must be steps that we missed during the process of initiating or planning, doing it. But when we check, when we monitor and review, we can easily be able to incorporate the new things that we didn't incorporate in during the course of the work. So it is advisable even in various things that we need to have continuous improvement, because risk management, it is a living document. We cannot say it is now done. No, it must be amended depending on the demand, depending on what has happened. Maybe due to the expiry date, maybe an incident has happened, maybe some changes have happened, maybe an organization is out of funds. There are some things that we consider when we are doing monitoring and review. These are some of the specifications that we are always concentrating on during the course of our work. Because yes, we can have everything, but it is very important to do monitoring and review to ensure that we check ourselves whether we are complying with the legal requirements, to ensure that we can incorporate the new things that we didn't include, to ensure that we can adjust and incorporate all other things that we missed at the first step. Thank you very much. I love you so much, and I wish to inform everyone that as Safeguard International, we came up with a strategy of developing the risk management within your organization, more especially in construction. Have a good day.